On AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Can't hear this clip too many times. BLM Brandon back in 2023, shortly after his victory, in response to mob action near Grant Park, in which, as I recall, a young couple, a boyfriend-girlfriend, beaten up by a bunch of CPS honor students. They travel in roving teams. This was back then.
Demonizing children is wrong. We have to keep them safe as well. They're young. Sometimes they make silly decisions. They do. And so we have to make sure that we are investing to make sure that young people know that they are supported.
Kids being silly, we remember. And I think he gave an example of one of his kids, like sledding down the steps at home and something like that. It's kids being silly. Silly, silly kids. Not silly, silly politicians with wildly dangerous policy choices. No. Although after Friday's mass event around the Chicago Theater on State and Lake, I'm sure you've seen the videos. Hundreds of kids. Alderman Brian Hopkins put it at 300. 8 people shot, and then around the block on Dearborn, 14-year-old shot multiple times and killed. BLM Brandon, former defund the policer, a proponent of just chalking these incidents of mass violence up to kids being silly. Those rapscallions. Striking a different tune. First, he was touting the resources that were deployed to ensure what happened on Friday night wouldn't happen, concurrent with the tree lighting ceremony, and well, obviously that didn't work.
We had 700 additional officers on top of the 1st Police District present. We had CVI workers that were out there as well. But clearly, what we put in place did not do enough.
Going with police instead of violence interrupters and social workers, huh? Interesting. And his message to the silly kids out there and the moms and dads?
Incidents like last night set us back as a city, and it evokes fear. Our young people have to understand that they should not attend these unauthorized events that have been advertised on social media. They are extremely dangerous due to the number of individuals that may be carrying weapons, and as much progress as we have made, there are still far too many guns on our streets. For these young people who have...
So, I guess when you get a mass shooting, you can't use the silly kids cover story. But will this elicit a change in approach to public safety? This gentleman, meaning me, remains skeptical. Let's get perspective from another gentleman, John Garrido, former Chicago Police Lieutenant in the 16th District and president of the Garrido Stray Rescue Foundation. John, thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So no more silly kids. Message to young people and their parents, impersonating somebody that almost is in the realm of the responsible. But the resources, 700 cops, he said, deployed. So was that not enough? Was it a resource issue? It is just a general lawlessness issue? Why do we see things like what happened outside the Chicago Theater continuing to happen?
Well, we could talk about general lawlessness. That's just a common theme of every single one of these silly kids that come down there on a regular basis. But the resource that was missing was the snap curfew. The snap curfew ordinance that he vetoed that would have allowed the superintendent to initiate a curfew within 30 minutes of the time he initiates it. So he could have, at that time last night, said maybe at 8:30, you know what, there's way too many teens down here. It looks like it's going to get a little crazy. They're overwhelming our 700 officers. So we're going to institute a curfew at 9 o'clock. That's it. They got to go. And then now they can take action, and they can start clearing those streets and getting those kids out of there. But Brandon Johnson decided, no, you know what, we don't need to have those kind of resources because it's somehow racist.
Well, there's some indelible images with this incident, again, that was captured on video. One is the officers were on scene. I mean, they were right there in real time. You see them running down State Street, just not enough of them. So that's number one. Number two was this senior couple crossing State Street.
Saw that.
Yeah, and they're just, they're I can't imagine how afraid they were as they're just trying to find cover when amid all of this chaos, and thankfully they were not hurt. But the officers responding, it seems to me part of the problem, it's a cultural one, it's not easy to change, although you could certainly effort in this direction, is that mob of young people, they're not afraid of the police.
No, it's become normalized. It's scarecrow policing. You put 700 officers down there and just have them stand there and wait for something to happen. And then when it does happen, then they move in. My wife and I, we must have had some type of a complete lapse in judgment on that night. Decided, you know what, let's go down and look at the lights. So we got on the Metro, we drove down there and went down there and went to the Kindle Market, and then we decided to go look at the tree. So we walked, and as we approached State and Washington, and I looked around, I snapped out of it, and I was like, what the hell are we doing down here? And Dan, I know they say 300. There were at least 1,000 on State Street alone, going north and going west. These teenagers were everywhere. So we decided to head east on Washington to get to that tree. 1 block more over at Wabash, we got stopped there. We talked to the officers there. They said, no, they shut the tree down light off early, shut it down because of this an hour earlier, or 2 hours earlier. And just the idea that there's nobody, none of those businesses are saying, oh, thank God there's 2,000 teenagers down here because we're going to have a great night. And then at that time, all of a sudden, we hear these shots fired and just a stampede of teenagers running everywhere. And at that moment, I'm like, if something, God forbid, would have happened to us, and we're down here, I know, guarantee you, everybody would be saying, what were they thinking? Why would they go down there? And that's the sad part about all of this stuff. And a 14-year-old kid lost his life because Brandon Johnson wouldn't sign that that snap curfew.
On the matter of, we now know her name, Bethany McGee, the woman who was lit on fire on the Blue Line. More and more information is coming out about who knew what when, who was warned by Cook County prosecutors about releasing this guy on electronic monitoring. So it wasn't just Teresa Molina Gonzalez, the DEI judge, as she proudly touts in this video we played earlier in the show in front of a classroom, talking about, being a Latina judge, and, this informs her decisions in terms of meting out justice, adjudicating cases, which is a terrible statement to make, but not surprising. We now know that those in charge of the electronic monitoring program in the Chief Judge's office also were warned, and they can't account for why there seemingly was no action taken when this individual was repeatedly in violation of the restrictions per his electronic monitoring release. So, I mean, it's just sort of not police failure in this case, and not really Cook County prosecutors' failure either, judicial failure. But here's my question. I mean, you can comment on that, the judges, number one. But number two, don't you think Eileen Burke should address this publicly? I mean, I don't want to hear that, well, her prosecutors need to appear in front of these judges and so on and so forth. I mean, it's one thing to be better than Kim Foxx, which is the lowest of bars. It's another thing to actually be a leader when it comes to law enforcement and holding the justice system accountable to the extent you can from your posture, from your position as a Cook County State's Attorney. And I'm tiring of Eileen Burke getting a pass while she sits in silence when these egregious events occur.
Yeah, there's no doubt there should be some more outrage from her office. This guy was arrested 72 times, at least 72 times, convicted 15 times, and to say, oh, well, he's just an isolated crazy. I think that's what the mayor said. This is an isolated incident. He's crazy. He went to a gas station, filled up a bottle with gasoline, and then he had the wherewithal to know exactly what he's doing. And there's a lot more people out there like them, probably copycats out there. The system is completely broken, and I'm sick of these judges, the Latina judge. Yeah, I'm a Latino citizen of the city of Chicago that's sick of hearing about all of these unqualified people getting elected to these positions of authority that have no idea what they're doing. What was her statement? I can't hold everybody. I can't lock up everybody.
Yeah.
No, but you can hold this one. You can hold the ones that meet the requirements. You're not just going to let them go because you have some mental quota that decides who can stay and who doesn't stay. You have to lock these guys up and keep them put away to keep us safe, and they're just not doing that, and it's frustrating.
The other thing, I mentioned this earlier in the show, too, in terms of the Pritzker Purge Law, because this plays a part in the whole thing, too, a big part. And there's a case over the weekend. A guy robs a home in Bucktown. The homeowners see him on video, and he had keys. The keys that he took were trackable, and so police got him and arrested him. And then he was immediately turned out. Neither the prosecutors nor the judge. Jim Murphy, in this case, who I know is a former felony review chief and a serious guy in law and order, so I'm not putting it on him. That's why I want to talk about the law. The prosecutors didn't even bother. The judge didn't even bother because it's like center cut in the Pritzker Purge Law that guy has to be put on pretrial release because that's a quote-unquote non-violent offense. And I thought the juxtaposition was interesting about another case that was adjudicated last week where a guy who had been arrested 13 times, felonies, and had served half a dozen stints in jail for things like auto theft, was sentenced to 20 years for killing a grocery store clerk, 43-year-old grocery store clerk, who he robbed, and the guy grabbed his hand, and then he shot him and killed him. So, point is to say, a burglary like the one in Bucktown is not a nonviolent crime. And because you think if somebody had been home and there was a confrontation, we don't know if he would have engaged in violence or tried to flee, and we don't know where this is going to go. The idea that you have criminals that are habitual in nature, and it's nonviolent technically because no violence occurred until it's not. And so now my question is, 2 years from now we're going to be talking about this guy having a situation like what happened to that grocery store clerk and killing somebody, and it could have been stopped if you had not pretrial released him, because all the number of crimes we know committed by people on pretrial release, or if you had imposed the kind of severe sentence that sends a message to habitual criminals that you're going to be removed from society permanently, or at least for long stretches of time. But that's not what we do. We don't even think about that. We don't even connect dots in terms of the system.
No, the message that's been sent to criminals loud and clear is we're making it easier for you to commit your crimes. Like when Kim Fox changed the threshold for felony shoplifting from $150 to $1,000. It's no different with Pritzker's law, the purge law, as you say, and it's perfect because that's what it does. It makes it easier for the criminals to commit crimes, and they've normalized it. They've programmed these politicians, and they've programmed the public to think, oh, yeah, it's just burglary. You can get more stuff. It's just theft. The insurance companies will cover it. It's only a car. It's only this. It's only that. And they make it normalized for people to think, oh, it's okay that these poor people that are just trying to get through life are out there committing these crimes because they have no other option. Yet if you look at it, and there's only about, they say, 5% of the population are committing the crimes, then how is it the 80% or 95% of the other poor people are able to get through life without committing crimes?
Yeah. Question for you. We're still waiting for that after-action report from Superintendent Snelling with respect to the stand-down order that was given to Chicago police to not come to the aid of ICE agents on the South Side, that incident a couple months back. Are we ever going to get that after-action report after Snelling said it wasn't a stand-down order that we heard on dispatch was a stand-down order?
I doubt it. And that was the clearest stand-down order I've ever heard.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I doubt that we'll ever see that. I haven't seen any reporters raising the question.
Of course not.
They're asking or anything. Everybody just kind of stopped. It went away. That's 50 news cycles ago.
No, I know. Well, and it could be uncomfortable. The obvious
uncomfortable because it was issued.
Yeah, admitting the obvious is uncomfortable. So let's just and ICE officers are bad people. So we'll just sweep that away and let's it's too awkward to have that conversation. So let's just get rid of that, everybody. And honestly, that is as much as I like Snelling. I'm inclined to like him, and I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. That's not leadership either. Sorry.
Yeah, that was disappointing when I saw his press conference because I like him too, and I thought that he was going to be good he is. I think he is good for the officers overall. But when I saw that, and I get the loyalty to stand up for your guys, your supervisors that are working under you. But at the end of the day, that was one he could have just easily said, you know what, bad call, it was a mistake, shouldn't have happened, won't happen again.
Do you have any insight on what's going on at FOP? They've been. FOP has been sort of conspicuously silent as these barbaric crimes have been committed, as you have the judges now in the spotlight that deserve to be in the spotlight for the rest of their careers at minimum. And we're just not hearing much from anyone except the usual suspects. And I would think that FOP would be a usual suspect.
Yeah, I know they've had some messy internal politics going on over there, and a few internal investigations and things. It sounds like that they might be getting that all cleared up and get themselves back on track, but you're right, they should be definitely more vocal on a lot of this stuff that's been going on, and we haven't heard anything from them lately.
All right. Any Thanksgiving specials you want to tout at the Garrido Stray Rescue Foundation? I mean, not for the Thanksgiving dinner. I mean, pet specials if people are looking for a pet this holiday season.
Yeah, well, we are we're actively fundraising. We have a great dog named Bobble that's he's got some neurological problems, and he's going to have to go in for surgery, and that surgery is going to cost between $12,000 and $16,000. So if anybody wants to go to Garrido Stray Rescue, Garrido Stray Rescue Foundation on our Facebook page, we've got several little fundraisers set up there that you can help Bobble out. He's a great dog, and we want to do what we can to save him.
All right, great. John Garrido, former Chicago Police Lieutenant, 16th District, president of the Garrido Stray Rescue Foundation, and that website to go check out Bobble and the other pets ready for adoption or support for somebody else to adopt them. GarridoStrayRescue.org, GarridoStrayRescue.org. John, thanks for joining us. As always, appreciate it.
Thank you, and they can find us on Facebook as well.
Okay. And John Garrido, happy Thanksgiving. He joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper. Hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Guys, don't propose with a ring that she didn't pick out. Trust us, she already has a ring in mind. So engage with Gage Diamonds in